I'd like to use my time today, though, to focus on the unique obstacles of many of my fellow women of color who must contend with systematic racism and sexism, and particularly every aspect of their daily lives, which significantly impacts their access to education, housing, healthcare, and so much more. For example, while Black and white women have fairly similar high school graduation rates, white women are about 10% more likely to be able to access higher education. This March, Chairwoman, there was a study called Black Womenomics, which found that this gap is the result of disparities in school funding and equality education, explicit and implicit classroom biases, and access to fewer financial resources. Again, not due to choice, but due to these systems that are in place that are holding back our Black women. And so I ask unanimous consent to enter into the report, the Goldman Sachs Black Womenomics study, if I may.
Without objection.
This education gap, which begins with access to early childhood education, is one of the biggest reasons that women of color make less than both white men and women on average. And in fact, this intensifies the existing historical barriers to home ownership, which is something that's critically important to address wealth gap generations among people of color across the country, as well as the impact of redlining and racially motivated policies. Black households are still 15% less likely to own homes than our counterparts, even when controlling for like income or education, age, and household status. So Dr. Mason, for the benefit of everyone here, could you explain how home ownership gap impacts the ability of women of color and their families to be able to obtain wealth or economic stability in our country?
So what we're talking about is cumulative disadvantage. So and that just means how the impact of historic policies that have discriminated against communities, particularly related to home ownership. So like redlining, predatory lending practices, not having access or earning wages to be able to afford for the down payment. All these things impact Black women and the Black community's ability for home ownership. The other thing we have to know is that in 2008, for example, with the collapse, the previous economic recession, the foreclosure rate of Black women and Black families was extremely high, and that stripped entire communities of wealth that they're never going to get back. And in this moment during the pandemic, one of the things we did learn was that we needed to pause and have a moratorium on foreclosures and evictions. But what we don't know, for example, is the impact of those moratoriums once they are lifted. And what I believe is that it will have a disproportionate impact on communities of color, homeowners of color, and we'll see stripping away of wealth.
Thank you so much, Dr. Mason. We know that women of color in our country are put at a huge disadvantage from the start because of various systematic racism and sexism structures, again, that have been set up to make it even more difficult for them to be able to thrive in our country. And I know, and I'm going to emphasize this, we don't need more studies to tell us that. We already have the data and the information. What I do know is that as somebody that represents the 3rd Forest Congressional District, as somebody that has seen our state, the state of Michigan, lost more Black homeownership than any other state in the country, that we need to start looking at some of these structural changes, like the Boost Act that would allow people that make less than $100,000 to be able to get a tax credit directly and uplift about 45% of people out of poverty. We need a living wage. We need to prioritize books in schools over bombs and submarines. This is what we need to do, is try to make sure that our budget is fitting those values and making it easier for every single person in our country to be able to access to thrive. These are the type of things that we know, all of us know, that will help every single woman in our country. And so I think it's very important, as someone that is in this space, that I'm bringing my own lived experiences, being a child of immigrant parents, but also as a woman of Muslim faith and in these spaces, that I don't want to just be put in as a body to diversify the space. I also want to be able to help shape these policies. And I'm asking all of my colleagues to understand and listen listen to these lived experiences and understand what we're telling you is the truth. It is harder for women like us to be able to thrive in our country, and we need to change that. And the reality is, you all are deciding to silence us, to try to make us less credible in these spaces, versus actually listening to us and making our country even better than it can, because this type of racism and this type of silencing of women like us is not going to help us all thrive. Thank you, and I yield.